Mockingjay, the third Hunger Games movie, is based on roughly the first half of the third Hunger Games book, with Part 2 arriving about a year from now. The Hobbit, The Battle of Five Armies, is a final segment of a relatively small book that has been expanded into thirds and parceled out over the past 3 years. Stephen King's The Stand, a book once widely considered unfilmable due to its epic scope and punishing length, is now set to become a 4-part feature film adaptation. Everybody thought that Batman vs. Superman was going to be a sequel to Man of Steel, but it's actually Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and it's acting as a direct prequel to the Justice League movie, which in turn is coming out in 2 parts in 2017 and 2019. And everybody already knows how the Marvel movies are all acting as sequels, prequels, and midquels to one another on a mostly consistent timeline, which now also includes a TV show and 4 Netflix series coming in the near future. 20th Century Fox plans to keep making X-Men movies apparently so long as someone can figure out a workout regimen by which Hugh Jackman can continue to inexplicably be the main character in all of them. And they're keen to do the same with Fantastic Four if and when they bother to start reminding people that there's a Fantastic Four movie coming out in like 8 months. Sony, meanwhile, is still talking about making a universe of movies based on secondary Spider-Man characters. They're not actually going to do that, of course. They're probably going to try and fail at least once more and then break down and figure out how to share custody of problem child Parker with Disney. Oh, and Universal is talking up a revival of their 1940s monster pseudo-universe, though so far it ain't going so well. We used to call this serializing, but now it's called franchising, because God forbid there be one piece of day-to-day modern existence not commonly described using corporate marketing language. And whether you like it or not, it's the new normal for the way Hollywood makes and markets blockbuster action and/or genre movies, and I'm sure the comedy version isn't too far away from happening. Yeah. There are a lot of reasons for this, starting with greed on behalf of the studios and the fact that opening weekend-obsessed Hollywood executives, living in abject fear of massive fandoms for stuff like Hunger Games or Twilight, losing their goddamn minds if an adaptation dares omit a single peripheral character or lyrical but otherwise meaningless dialogue exchange. This being the time of year that movie critics and culture watchers start filling in the December to January dead zones with state-of-the-culture think pieces, you're going to be reading a lot about this, especially now that we've got those big, intimidating 5-year plan release slates from Marvel and DC to illustrate the point, and most of what you're reading is going to be doom and gloom, lamenting the end of singular, contained cinematic storytelling. Now, a lot of this can be easily dismissed, since for some film writers, pretty much anything that happened in movies after 1979 or so is considered the devil's work, but reflexively backward-looking as it is, the premise becomes worth considering. I'm of 2 minds on the subject, basically coming down, as I'm wont to do, on the side of non-ideological pragmatism, i.e. franchising being good when it's good and bad when it's bad, same as everything else. Case in point, Mockingjay feels a lot like something that could have been taken care of as a single movie, whereas The Stand, yeah, you probably want to give that sucker room to breathe. The concern for the dilution of standalone storytelling is absolutely a valid one. Returning once again to Mockingjay, there are some lovely character scenes in Part 1, but the only piece of genuine story movement comes in at the very end. See also, even if you adore the Harry Potter movies, when's the last time you sat down to watch only Deathly Hallows Part 1? Yeah, I didn't think so. Nobody likes camping scenes that much. However, I do see as many if not more benefits to this being the new normal than the drawbacks, which I'll get to in a moment. See, in my mind, the bigger issue at play here is less that the business has changed and the inability or unwillingness by some culture watchers to recognize why, namely that the franchising boom is happening right now because the way media is processed by audiences in the right now has practically demanded it. There's always something to be said for not overstaying a welcome, but the idea that every piece of narrative storytelling needs to function wholly self-contained is still rooted in a pre-digital, pre-internet, pre-democratization of information view of the world. One where if you stumbled on a book or a movie or a TV show that was part of a series, it was very plausible that you might never be able to find its related volumes very easily. But that's just not the world anymore. If I happen to watch Sleepy Hollow for the first time and decide that I like it even if I have no idea what's actually happening, chances are I can pull up and start watching the old ones right away, or just let Wikipedia tell me who everyone is, and then I'm caught up. Hell, I can do this from my phone, and while that may not be the default setting for the entire world, it increasingly is for parts where the movies and shows are being seen. And while it sucks to have Craven Studios breaking stuff up unnecessarily, accepting that current and future generations of media consumers increasingly don't see narrative storytelling as something that needs to be constrained to a single work or even a single genre or medium, opens up the door to telling further-reaching, more complex stories and giving characters greater individual evolution. Like the way Captain America can have a seemingly complete 3-act life story in his first film, arrive fully formed to act as the moral center of an ensemble piece, and then face the questioning of everything he previously held true in The Winter Soldier, and then do whatever the hell is going to happen to him in Avengers 2 and Civil War. So yeah, as usual, the end of the world is probably not the end of the world. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a pitch meeting at Universal in about an hour. I'm Bob, and that's the big picture.